So
Hey.
welcome to the
Hello.
January 25th, 2024 Town Center and Library Committee meeting. We always start with public comments. So Judy, do you have anything you wanted to share with us?
The questions that I've found or I've been asked as I talk to people do have a lot to do with the tenant and the police space, how it's actually, whether it's been decided. And I know you say that the interior walls are changeable
Mhm.
in the next step after the bond vote passes. But I've also was curious. I noticed that you did make some changes in the layout. I don't know, it was after November we talked about it, about the sort of unused space that was next to the break room and the
Yeah.
possibility of making that not just such a big fat hallway, but or a dead space, and that you moved the break room over to the corner, and then you made that a tenant space and sort of connected it to the larger tenant space that is now the TV space. I mean, that you did make changes, and I just was wondering what was driving those and whether you're going to continue to make changes, or who decided to make those changes. I guess, and then also, this is maybe more, a lot of this has to do with the select board, but you're going to get the questions, so you might want to ask the select board what the status is. You know, is there any further discussion about the needs of the police or the needs of, the space that they need, and how it too might be more flexible or more adjustable as far as interior space is going. So those are just some of the questions that I had.
Okay, I think I can answer those.
Mhm.
So the changes in the tenant space were in direct response to the Senior Center and the Historical Society. The Historical Society would prefer an interior space without windows, because the windows, deteriorate some of their artifacts. And so the architects just flop things around a little bit to create interior space for the Historical Society. That's my recollection. Does that sound right to Lori and Amy?
Yeah, that's correct. And also they were gonna share, I don't know, they were gonna share some space and needed slightly less space. And yeah, it was a discussion with the architects, which took place a long time ago, but it didn't get reflected in the drawings quite as quickly as should have happened.
I think we've been frugal with our handouts. We printed up quite a few
Yeah.
handouts. We've
Yeah.
made what we consider not very significant changes.
So just a follow-up question with that then. So in some ways, you're still sort of labeling things like it's the Historical Society and the Senior Center, and the spaces that are more tentative would be things like the TV or radiate, or things that would be. So, I mean, it's obvious that sort of in the back that there are things, and that there going to have to be decisions made, but that there still are priorities and changes made to accommodate those priorities.
So
Mhm.
I guess the way that I would respond to that is we've had conflicting recommendations on how to label the spaces, the tenant space in particular, on the top floor. And the conflict is between Radiate and primarily the Historical Society, I think. The Historical Society prefers it being labeled as tenant space because they feel like it provides more flexibility. Or no, it's you, excuse me. It was Radiate who prefers the tenant
Yeah.
space. And the Historical Society, I don't know if the Senior Center cared that much, but the Historical Society felt it was more important to label it. And since we had talked about that in a select board meeting, we didn't feel like changing that again and going back to the select board. The reality is that the we're not anywhere near final design. What we needed in order to come up with the numbers, our primary focus was coming up with what the cost was going to be, is we needed enough of a design to put numbers to each of the different components. And the interior partitions are a very small portion of the project cost. So I think it's fair to say that we feel that the interior design for both the police department, MMCTV, the Historical Society, the Senior Center, and Radiate we have a fair amount of flexibility in that. And our community cares. And there's the way it's laid out right now is clearly not very efficient, not a very efficient use of space. So we feel like there's enough space for all of those tenants. We think we can accommodate those. MMCTV has been quite clear and amenable to changes in their space. They feel like they have more space than they need.
And is it safe to say, Jeff, that at this point, the select board, we've made no recommendation and the select board has made no decision about any tenants. We are probably not going to make any decisions about that until after we know whether the vote passes or not.
I think that's fair. And it's likely, it won't be our decisions anyways. This committee's decision will be the select board's decision. I do think it's fair to say that the select board has been receptive to all of our tenants and cognizant that all of the tenants that we currently have, including Radiant, are well loved in town. And I think there'll be a great effort to try to accommodate as many of them as we can, if not all.
One last follow-up question then would be, is there a discussion, and this is mostly for you, Jeff, as a select board person, I guess, is there a discussion with the select board and the police chief about exactly what the needs are and where in the negotiations with the Heinsberg Richmond? I mean, whenever I talk to people feel that there's still a lot up in the air, but is there a discussion about what the needs might be if it is a combined police force as opposed to a separate Richmond police force?
Yes. So right now, I think the feeling is that our arrangement with Heinsberg is working quite well. And we are in the process of hiring. We are in some stage along the way hiring 2 officers. And have the potential of hiring our complete department. But we also really appreciate sharing the police chief services. And, I think it would be fair to say that we don't want to change that. Our contract with Heinsberg runs through the end of June of this year. So we are in the middle of negotiating that contract with Heinsberg. And concurrently, we're negotiating a contract with the police union. It's ironic that even though we don't have officers, really, we have one union officer at the moment, and he's on military deployment. But we still have the union. We still have a collective bargaining agreement that we have to adhere. Be that as it may. Thankfully, this committee hasn't had to deal with all of that. And it is it's definitely a topic under discussion at the select board level. So the select board is meeting with Heinsberg. There are a number of issues that we do need to work out. I personally have talked with Chief Cambridge about space and about this space, this much space. This is about twice as much space as what we have downstairs right now for the police department. And that he indicated to me that that's more than enough, depending on how many officers we have. The only unusual, I guess there would be two unusual aspects to the police space that we accounted for in budgeting. And that is for a bath and shower and lockers. The understanding is that there can be times when an officer comes off of duty and might have, somebody throw up on them, or, bodily fluids.
Contaminants, yeah.
Bodily fluids that you really want to get rid of. And so, that would be the most unusual part of the space as far as the other uses of the building. But it's primarily a bathroom. So there isn't, right now, I can say there is no discussion of not having a police department in Richmond of some sort. There's some momentum of going towards a more formal arrangement with Heinsberg, but that will likely take some time in order to be able to consummate all the details of that. In the meantime, we're happy with contracting, and we just have to work out the details of the contract. Does that answer your question, Judy? Okay. Okay. I don't have the agenda in front of me, but I think we're doing a debrief on.
Yeah,
Okay.
Debrief presentations and outreach,
Okay.
brainstorm, new opportunities.
Okay. So I think the Friday food affair has been going quite well. We've done 2 of those now. We should think about whether we want to do more. I kind of think that they've been working well myself.
yeah.
Do you
I
feel
know
that?
that I wasn't at the second one, but did you feel like it was somewhat of a different crowd the second time? I think our concern was it was a lot of the same people and how.
Can't speak to whether it was the same crowd, because I was at the second one, but not at the first one, but we
Yeah.
talked to a number of people. So they weren't there at the
Yeah.
first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the next 2 dates?
Next week, the 19th, what is this week?
February 2nd?
Yes, February 2nd.
February 2nd, and then 2 weeks from then.
Yeah, it's the
No,
first and
February 3rd.
it's the first and third Fridays of the month.
Yeah, so February 3rd is a Friday.
I think it's the 2nd. Am I wrong on that? 'Cause
Oh,
I think
no, I'm on a 2023 calendar. That goes in the trash. Okay.
It's breakfast for dinner, so that is the
Oh, that would be cool.
So, my observation is that even if the same people come, they don't necessarily, come and are engaged at the same time. And we
Mhm.
handed out quite a few flyers. We, handed out another,
Mhm.
15 or so flyers. And, it Marshall gives us a really good introduction, says, come over.
Yeah.
And go
Yep.
So I think,
Okay.
the next 2 are February 2nd and February 16th.
Yeah, 16th I know is Chinese food.
And there's
Does it-
also one March 1st, but we can decide on that one later.
Yeah.
So yes, we should do that. And maybe
Okay.
we should just
Okay.
put it in minutes and,
Mhm.
and see who's available.
Okay.
I think
I
it's
mean,
really,
yeah,
I think it's
I
helpful.
could
to
be
have-
available for one of them.
Do the other one. I think both of those days work for me.
Okay,
Yeah, so,
I'll try, depending on how many.
yeah,
Request-
well, you don't have to do them all either, Jeff.
Okay, and
I'll
we
put
can.
it in the minutes.
Okay,
I'll put it in the minutes and maybe everybody can respond to Jeff with the dates they're available.
Okay.
Since
we did a
Dave and
tour-
Jake aren't here.
I did a tour on February 14th, and that went quite well, I felt.
Mhm.
That was one that we had, that's a Sunday, I believe.
Oh, January 14th?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who came to that? Let's see if I can remember it all. It was I'm tending to get maybe 4 to 6 people for these.
Mhm. Yeah,
definitely who are interested and,
Mhm.
more of the information, I guess. Was Dave and Fran Thomas, Rod West,
Mhm.
Bender, and Martha Nye.
Great.
So that's a
Mm-hmm.
really through to come. And we spent quite a bit of time. I intended, when I started with the presentation, and with the questions, it went almost an hour, which was great. And they
Mhm.
had lots. Then we walked around and you've seen the tours. So I felt that
Mhm.
that went quite well. The
Mhm.
one 22nd, again, was, I think it was 4 people.
Yeah, that was the one I was there. There were 6 people besides you and I. So Mike and Tess Stores, Bob Murphy, Stephanie from OCC, Betsy
And Aaron Farr.
and Aaron. That's right. So that was
Um,
good.
yeah, and I think that
Many,
went
yeah. If you
equally,
get too many people on the tours, it's hard to get people around the building.
yeah. So again, I think that worked really quite well.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm probably, Josh, you sent out invitations to all of the committees. I haven't heard back from anybody. Have you?
Yeah, I got a few responses. I think 2 or so said they were going to show up to the one last week, earlier this week. And I think we've got 4 or 5 or so for next Thursday. So not a huge response,
Right.
but I definitely had got a few people that said
Yeah.
they'd be there.
Excellent. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's February 8th, right? Or is that?
No,
is that
February 1st.
February 1st? That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
February 1st. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And I think I'll do this the same,
Yeah,
depending on the weather. What I did on the 22nd is I started outside,
yeah.
brief, and then came inside, and that seemed to work.
And Stephanie didn't know we were going to be outside, so she was a little cold. She didn't wear a coat. Uh,
It's Suzanne. It's Suzanne Perry.
Suzanne, sorry. Why, I don't know why I wrote down Stephanie. Suzanne, yes.
I thought the Times Inc. article came out quite well.
Yep.
One of the things that Heidi asked for, said it's really helpful. It's helpful when they get some ad revenue. So if you notice,
Right,
I
she talked, yeah.
I
She
put it
talked to
in-
me about, she pushed me on this too.
So, I just gave her one of, I sent her one of our flyers and I told her that if the committee didn't pay for it, I would. I think it's $116 or something like that. So Josh, is that an appropriate town expense or?
Yeah, I think
would-
so. It's an informational flyer, right?
Yeah,
So I think we'll be
I
okay.
would split it with you. But did you send her the flyer with all the dates on it?
Yeah.
Because we need to change the dates.
Well, yeah, it's the way I worded it is past and future. Part of my reasoning for that is it's good for people to know that we've been trying.
Yeah,
So, and if we
yeah.
come up with new ones, then great, we'll change the flyer.
I can at least add the Friday food affairs. And
Yeah.
we need to talk about whether we're actually allowed to do a table or a presentation during the election.
We haven't answered. We'll talk
Oh,
about
good.
that.
Okay.
So
All right.
Jeff, just have Heidi send me that invoice and then you guys shouldn't have to pay for that. We can pay for that through the town.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll do that. So the question would be, I don't know if she would even do it, but she was very engaged. I worked with Heidi all weekend on writing that. She was very engaged and very
Great
interested.
article.
It wouldn't be bad to be in the next issue too, because it's right before town meeting.
Because
You know,
that is her voting issue. That's where she has all the candidate statements and stuff. So we should definitely be in there.
Oh, the question would be what wasn't covered or what can be duplicated from this issue. I don't,
Well,
the
can we
deadline,
put the ad, could we put the ad in next issue?
sure, I think the ad is always easy. But if we want an
Yeah.
article, then,
Wonder if we could collect the front porch forum posts that we're doing this week or this month. So the one that you did or Lori did, that Jake's was posting one this week supposedly, and I'm posting one
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah,
Which were
Jake's,
specific questions.
well, maybe we could just take the frequently asked question
Yeah,
page, you know, with
Put
the,
that in.
with the budget and see if she would print
Mhm.
that. You know, along with, I would have liked to have seen on the color, a nice color site plan would have been nice, you know. and
I
color
asked her if she was willing to, she could put color inside for us, and she said no.
Maybe for next one, you know, so that might,
Yeah.
you know, the other thing that I thought and then I have now reconsidered, is, you know, putting in an op-ed piece. You know, for me to write an op-ed piece, but I think I'm getting a little uncomfortable about getting too close to making a recommendation, and we'll talk
Yeah,
about
and
that.
I don't, yeah, I don't think, as a select board member, I don't think you should do that, because then it looks like the select board is in
Yeah,
favor of it, and I don't know that they all are.
well, I can tell you, I think they are, but,
Yeah, but they haven't voted on anything.
have not. And other than just to put it on the ballot.
Yeah.
They've been generally supportive, but it's
Mhm.
important publicly, you know, take a position.
Okay,
Okay. So other types of media that I've thought about, you know, should we go to BT Digger or 7 days? Just a question.
Hmm.
You know, this is not an insignificant issue in the, you know, in the county, really, you know, it's at one town in the county. You know, and it, you know, it can be cast as actually a fairly interesting, at least I think, you know, fairly interesting
Yeah.
article.
I think those papers might be interested if it could be an example of a larger story, maybe about state funding or municipal funding for infrastructure and things like that. But I'm not sure they would be interested in running something that's so town specific.
Mm.
Unless it was part of a larger story. I could be wrong, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
might be-
run VT Digger, and VT Digger would be more likely to pick it up
Yeah,
in 7
they're-
days, I think.
Yep,
Because
I would-
VT Digger does a lot of town-specific things. 7 days, I think, is more in the vein of what you're saying, Amy. It could be part of an election story about
Right.
these are some of the big issues on some of the local ballots. So we might want to let them know it's on the ballot and let them decide if it was, you know.
So would, you know, would the committee be comfortable with me contacting BT Digger in 7 days and just telling them what we're up to and see if they're.
You could certainly send them a press release and see if
Yeah.
they bite.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah, I think a press release, and we're going to get to this when we get to the town meeting discussion, but really the guidance from the attorney was sort of just the facts, no pro or con, no please vote yes
Yeah.
or please vote no, just keep it
Yeah.
real neutral. So if we write a real neutral press release, and then we could send that out to a wider swath as well too, if we had a one-page press release, you never know who's going to pick it up.
Right.
Well, I
Yeah.
think, after, looking at our frequently asked questions piece, there's one, remember the conversation we had about whether or not the committee should be recommending or not. And I
Yeah.
think the answer is no.
No.
And so there's one word in the frequently asked questions piece that says recommend. And I would just
Okay.
take that.
Well, I can find it because I have a lot of other changes to make on that frequently asked questions.
Okay.
No, not recommend. Okay. I'll do a find and find the word.
Okay, it's actually a heading. It's on the first page, it's a heading that says recommend. And if you take it out.
Oh,
then it,
recommendation. That's right.
Mhm.
Okay.
think it reads
I,
fine, just with,
you know what, it doesn't even need a separate heading because it's under our work.
yeah,
And
I
it
think so.
just says, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Easy. I have to do the first and second floor things. Yeah,
Okay.
I think we've been pretty careful about just saying this is the facts. I mean, in the tours and everything, we just want to show you what the problems are.
I think the front porch forum posts have been useful. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
I'm the week of the 29th, so that's
Okay.
next week.
yeah.
okay,
The other
Um,
one I thought I could do, Jeff, is maybe after Amy, is my answer to Jim about why not build new.
yeah, that would be excellent.
I could I could do that the first week of February after Amy's,
That'd be great.
because I have it all written.
Yeah.
And it
would
was
be
in
great.
response to a front porch forum question that he didn't post to everybody, so.
No, and that was, Laura, I wanted to mention that I really appreciated both the post and the response. And you were careful about writing vote on, not vote for, which I really appreciated, actually. It was good.
I'm trying to remember that, and as I talk to people, this is what we're voting on. Yeah,
Boy, Fran was angry at us for, or angry at me for saying that, but I think we do need to be careful. So
yeah,
how about
okay,
more presentations or tours?
Yeah.
We had about Cochrane's, was a possibility. I
Mhm.
talked Adam Wood, who you know, and what he says, it's something that really surprised him because he campaigned there last year when he was running for select board. And he said, what really
Mhm.
surprised him, about 20% of the people who were at Cochrane's were from Richmond.
Yeah, people come from all over.
Come from all over,
Mhm.
which like a high concentration. So I wonder about that.
Mhm.
Something that Aaron Farr mentioned the other night at our tour, which I thought was perceptive, is one
Mhm.
place that they're guaranteed to be from Richmond is the elementary school. And I don't know whether we would be allowed to, but if we could be there some morning or some afternoon to, give flyers to parents, that might be a high ratio of,
Mm. But I think Aaron said they send out an e-newsletter to parents. And I think that would be more, I don't think being on site is appropriate, but if
Mhm.
they were willing to put something in a newsletter, Amy, I don't know if you know more about this, or Josh.
Yeah, every school kind of does it differently. You would probably need to talk to the principal. And I would say, same with Lori, probably being on site.
feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of, regulations and things like that. Not to
And
mention,
not, yeah,
it would not be a good time to try to be doing that with
Right.
parents. Maybe afternoon, but or if there's an event or something that was,
and you would miss all the kids that ride the bus, which is
Yeah.
more kids than get dropped off. That's why I think Erin said there was, she said the name of it too, and I don't remember. There's a communication
Yeah.
that goes out from the principal to as an email, and it could be a
Yep.
2-line, or did you know that there's a vote and a link to the,
So we've used both for Little League signups. They've
Yeah.
allowed us to put a flyer in both. And basically what we've done is put a PDF in there. And so I think we could actually take the flyer that we have and email it to both principals and, see if they put it in.
Okay.
The one thing I noticed as far as display, because I only ever read the newsletter on my phone, it only really shows the top third or so. So we might want to redesign the flyer to get like key points in there, like learn more about the town center project with these dates, Yeah, or so, just to get people's
Yeah.
attention so they know what it's
Yeah.
about. If they don't, because if you click on it, it opens up. But if you don't click on it, you're just scrolling through, and
Well,
there's not the key pieces at the
And
top.
also,
But I can
yeah.
I can reach out to both principals if you want to kind of take a look at design the flyer. Because I
Okay.
got to get them for Little League anyway.
The only other thing to just be aware of, and this was in the paper as well, is that the school district is also putting out all of their information to the voters about the school taxes that are going to be going up. So
Yeah.
to have a flyer that says, "Hey, large school tax, here's our justification
Yeah.
school tax increase," and us in the same vein talking about another.
Yeah.
I just don't know if we want to try to equate those two
But-
things together as much as
Yeah.
possible, or
Yeah.
keep them.
I know there was something on the news tonight and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't, that could sink us actually. If
I
the school tax goes up 18%.
My understanding is that it's capped at 5%.
No,
The school tax is capped at 5%.
that's,
So it is capped at 5%, as long as you don't go over, I think, 10% in your budget increase. My wife was trying to explain it to me the other day. She's on
Yeah.
the school board. But that's where the state right now, every school district's figured it out. Oh, if we go up 9%, we get some free money basically from the 5 to 9%. And so a lot of districts are saying, well, we're going to replace the furnace, we're going to replace, the roof. Let's do all these one-time projects. And now the state's looking at it saying, well, that's not the way you're supposed to do it. So there's a lot of nuance there, and I don't pretend to fully understand it,
know.
but that 5% cap is real.
there's the VT Digger explanation of it was very confusing. They had an article that tried to explain that whole, what you just said, and it's like, and how it's gonna not be 5%. It's not gonna be capped at 5%. There's some mechanism. Yes, it was very confusing.
That's not what I heard, but we're not going to figure that out here.
Yeah.
But that increase in that
But yes.
confusion could lead to some challenges with the bond vote for sure. Because if we're all confused about it, it's a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about this? How about if we just find out whether it's possible to put information in it and then defer this decision until
We can
have-
decide. Yeah. I mean, the reality is we're going to be voting on a budget and a bond or a note or whatever we decide we're voting on. Yeah. Okay. So
so-
Josh, you're going to contact them just to see if they would be willing to do that.
Yeah, I'll do that.
And as far as the direct outreach to committees, we've done that.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm gonna offer to the Energy Committee, which is not a town sanctioned committee, is offer it to them and see if they want to, book one for some
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
And, we could even defer this to our next meeting, I suppose. We could go through what the list is of what our committees and see if, who has come and who hasn't come, and see if there are any, like, one of the things I was
Mhm.
going to ask to, frankly, Adam, Adam Wood is on the fire department, right?
Mhm.
Fire department has expressed some reluctance to doing a tour. Well, it's kind of the old guard that has been reluctant, maybe the younger folks might be more interested. So I was going to talk to Adam about that strategy and see if any, and frankly, I would love to do it for, Adam is going to be running for the select board. I'd like to offer as well. I think they should know, so I will do that. I will offer a tour to Adam and Adam Wood and Matt Moultrip, and talk to Adam about whether or not he could encourage, putting together, the fire department, interested parties at the fire department.
Yeah.
And they might be able to attend on Thursday the 1st. I mean, they don't have trainings or anything scheduled.
Yeah.
Right. So
Might as well offer it to them if you sort of we already
Yeah.
have one scheduled.
And the fire department also does not meet the second Monday. They meet the first, third, and fourth. So
Okay.
that second Monday in February is also a possibility.
Okay,
Yeah. I was gonna talk to Rebecca about putting the trifold up in the library, and we could steal it from there for Friday food affairs. And one of the thoughts I had when we were talking with Aaron was I'm wondering if I could be there, like pick a week and be there for the story time that the parents bring kids in for, and the baby lap time, because those are going to be likely Richmond young parent types, which
cool.
was that group that we said we haven't quite figured out how to reach. So let
Yeah.
me, if I could just talk to parents as they come in, or just sit in the room, and I'll talk to Wendy, and Rebecca is back, I think, today from her family. It's either today or next Thursday. But yeah,
Oh, I think that would be great.
because that's another group of people that are likely mostly Richmond. Whether they're voters, property owners, I don't know.
Well, it doesn't matter, they vote, you
Yeah.
don't have,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
okay, that's excellent. So how many flyers should we print up? Do we ask?
Well, why don't you let me redesign the flyers and at least take, somehow like cross through the old ones and add the new Friday food affairs on.
Yeah. But as far as the frequently asked questions, that's almost done.
Oh,
many-
yeah. Can we decide the first floor, second floor thing? Third floor? Because we now, when we put up select board meeting, we say it's on the third floor. But in here, it refers to the first floor as the town clerk's floor. We just need to be consistent. And then the comment about, well, the police are actually on the third floor, or are they on the second floor? The design.
Half more, so it's 1.5 and 2.5, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
right now, I think we always refer to that as the third floor. So
Okay.
that would mean the town clerk's on the second floor and you enter on the first floor.
The post office is the
That's
first
how
floor.
it's always.
Yeah, okay. So
yeah,
let's
post
do
office,
that.
exactly. That's how
Okay.
we've.
Post office first, town offices second, and then our third floor is gonna be police and tenants and meeting rooms.
Okay,
Okay. I'll fix
Yeah, do
that.
we
I
need to
will,
ask- We need to ask Black River to, if their designs look at level 1, level 2. Should we ask them to redo that to level 2, level 3?
good.
probably would be better.
The way it's all consistent.
Or I could just take one and write and cover it over and scan it with level 2 and level 3 on it, and not have them have to play with it.
No, they'll do it.
Yeah, just
It's
that,
a small
just,
change.
yeah.
It'd look better if they did
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It looks pretty sharp when we have the original PDF
Okay,
online and then printed out.
Okay.
So I
So
think
label
they
it
could probably
level
do that in about
2
5 seconds.
and level 3. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
we'll
and
do-
I'll make the
There you go.
changes on the
sense.
FAQ. And I will change that general contracting to general conditions.
Yeah.
That Bob pointed out. And then I'll send it to all of you.
That sounds good. So
Okay.
we're at third floor, second floor, first floor, and I'll talk to Black River Design and get them to change it on the.
Okay, Jeff, you'll do that? Okay, all
Um,
right.
The next thing I have on my agenda is the town meeting presentation. So
Yeah.
John met with the town attorney yesterday. And there was some confusion over whether we could do a presentation, whether we could hand out materials, and we kind of split the baby. So the presentation, yes, materials, no.
Okay,
Is that how you read it, Josh?
Yep, and as long as the presentation is for or against. So
Right, there's,
neutral
Right, it
fact-based
just- yeah.
presentation. Yeah, and then, and Lori, to your point earlier, because we asked about, well, can the committee support it? Can other committees support it? And Bob, the attorney, said, well, the committee would be seen as part of government supporting it, like the lister telling you don't appeal your
because
taxes.
we're
So
appointed, yeah.
yeah, when you put it in that context, it kind of crystallized like, oh yeah, of course.
If somebody
We
like
can't tell
Martha and
people what
I
to do.
want to lead a pro vote group, she could
Exactly.
do that because she's a public,
Yes,
she's just a community member. Yeah,
exactly. If they want to print up yard signs, vote yes on the town center, then they can have
They
at
could
it, but
do
we
that.
can't be part of that.
okay. That makes total sense.
okay.
Okay.
So do we want to, for that presentation, do we want to do the whole committee and split it up like we did the first time around? You think,
We're gonna
Well-
want to be more than we were.
what do you think about that, Josh? Should I just do it or should we do it as a full committee?
Oh, I guess it could go either way. Amy, were you saying we want to be shorter?
Yeah, don't we? We don't want to.
I agree.
Give-
No,
Because this is the same night you do your whole budget. It's not a separate presentation, right?
there's two things. So we'll do it at the informational meeting on February, I believe it's 26th, which is the Monday, the week
Right.
before.
Right,
And then we'll do it again. So the question we had with the attorney was, can we do it at town meeting? So yes, we can do it at town meeting on the 5th. But I think in either case, sort of keeping it shorter might be key. Monday, just because it's an evening, and we're also going to be talking about conservation fund, and probably we'll do a run through of the budget. And then town meeting is going to get long between the budget, this topic, votes on individual appropriations for charities and social services, and discussion of brown short housing. I mean, we're potentially
Yeah.
there for 8 hours. So
yeah,
just being mindful of that. I think if we can pare it down, whether it's just Jeff giving it or we all do our pieces, if we can get it down to 15 or 20 minutes, if that's possible. I don't know, Amy, what you were thinking.
yeah,
Yeah, that's long. I mean, I think there's going to be so much
Yeah.
going on. Just tune out if it's too long, if there's too much information in that
Well,
day.
so mostly what I would be looking for is, a cursory presentation and answer any lingering questions. So there will be an opportunity for people to ask questions, don't you think, Josh?
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So I think maybe we sort of boil it down to maybe it's sort of the FAQs that we kind of run through in a succinct way, and then let it open to the questions and discussions, and then it goes as long as people want to let it go, right? And it's not one presenter
Right.
dominating the time, but if people want to talk about it for an hour, can.
that's fine. Yeah, I think 10 minutes would be long enough for the presentation.
So what we worked out with Bob is for the informational meeting on the 26th.
Yeah.
We're gonna do the budget meeting from 6 to 7. And then we do the town center presentation. That one the committee could do, we could do, we
Yeah.
could do it as a, Zoom, different people. I think and then the conservation have a little bit too. But that doesn't have to go, it won't be, I would be surprised if we had a half dozen people in it.
Yeah.
And Jeff, one wrinkle that I noticed on the warning, it said, join us for a meeting on the 26th to talk about Australian ballot items and the budget. So it's already warned as having the budget on there. So either way, we may end up having to do the budget at that time just because we already warned it there. I don't know that there's a great harm to that.
For 7 o'clock, you mean?
For 7 o'clock, yeah. Like when we talked yesterday with Bob, I thought, great, we can move it to 6. But then as I reviewed the warning this morning with Linda, as we were getting ready to post it everywhere, I went, oh shoot, we promised the budget meeting at 7
That's
o'clock.
at 7.
At 7 with the informational hearing. So maybe I'll back up here. So Bob's advice was that informational hearing should really be only about Australian ballot items and shouldn't include the budget. And we've traditionally done both in that meeting. So I think just because we've already published the warning, we might continue to do both. I don't think there's a huge harm for it because there won't be any actual voting or changes on the budget until a meeting day. We had hoped to do the budget between 6 and 7 yesterday. Jeff and I thought, oh, that'll work out great, but I don't think it's kind of based on the warning.
Okay.
But we could do the budget afterwards, I think. You know, if we did the town center and then we did the conservation or vice versa, really the budget discussion, there's usually 4 people there for it because everybody knows the main show is town meeting day.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
But I still think 15 minutes or so. I mean, you could boil down this and then let questions. I mean, you could boil it down to the first few things on the FAQ and then let the questions deal with the whatever other things, energy, whatever.
I think the PowerPoint actually works well for Zoom in particular. You know, you get pictures and
Yeah.
I think we can do it as a PowerPoint, but we can do it in an expedite.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got some time to think about that. I mean, we can, you know,
we have exactly a month.
there we go.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll be our presidential primary as well.
Oh yeah, oh boy.
Okay.
Okay.
And the grant applications that we are currently working on is the Clean Energy Development Fund. I'm working with Jake on that. It's an energy, you know, an energy grant application. I think we're going to run into the same problem that we have with the Municipal Energy Resilience Program, in that Richmond is not an energy burdened community. Prioritize the fund. So, you know, the bad news is that we can't get grants. The good news is that we have enough money. You know, I don't know how you. We're perceived as having, you know, more money than say Winooski, you know, which is
I
probably.
know. Yeah.
The FEMA mitigation grant, I haven't been able to get any traction on that, and I kind of don't have a lot of time to delve into it between now and town meeting, and it's moot if the bond doesn't pass. So
Is there a deadline for those, or are they just kind of open-ended?
my understanding is it's rolling. You know, it's not, there isn't a deadline, is my understanding.
Okay.
And it looks like some work. You know, some thoughts I had on that was to hire somebody to help us work through it. You know, one person I thought of, frankly, was Carol Bounty, because she has experience working with FEMA.
If there's no deadline and we can wait till March, we can talk about that should it pass.
I think I would prefer that.
Or I mean, I'm in touch with FEMA fairly regularly. What are we looking for at this point? Really just some information about would it qualify based on being partially in the floodplain, and like how could we apply?
Yeah, so I talked to Stephanie at the VLCT Town Fair and explained what the situation was. And she said, yes, you know, you do sound like you would qualify for that. But it's a complicated application process. There is a piece of it where you're supposed to document losses, and you know, and there's a question, it's a benefit cost ratio of how much money they give you will offset future losses. It's the concept. We haven't had much losses yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been painful, but to this particular building, we've only had to clean it up a couple of times. However, it's not going to get better.
Right.
And, when I slice and dice that budget, I come up with, over $1 million worth of stuff that you could arguably attribute to flood mitigation, like moving the heating system, and building
Yep.
building a mechanical room. That's not a cheap fix. Filling the pipe tunnel is a very expensive item. So, I come up, depending on how you count all of that, I can come up with, maybe $1 million worth of stuff to do. I have no idea whether that fits their definition or not, or if they're going to dump all their money into Berry. I don't know
Yeah.
any of. So,
So it
Josh,
sounds
yeah.
like maybe, I was gonna say, it sounds like maybe a first step is to see sort of since Irene, how much damage have we had?
that would be
And
something.
then kind of start with a number. So let me see if I can get what Connie might have on file or what DLCT Passive might have on file, because they might have both been insurance claims versus FEMA claims. So let me see if I can get some information on what we've spent so
Okay.
far, and then and then we can run it by Stephanie to say, what do you think?
Yeah.
My sense is that our past losses on this building are not a lot. However, in order to meet our floodplain regulations, if we spend more than half of the value of the building, we have to bring it up floodplain standards, which does require us to put a lot of money into it.
Mhm.
So I don't know how that fits. And
Yeah.
I really
Okay.
have time or energy to delve
Yeah.
much deeper. But
Yeah.
Josh, if you could talk to Stephanie, or whenever you get a chance, that would be great.
Right.
Yeah, I think I'll first start by trying to see if I can get a history of costs to then go to Stephanie, and we'll at least have a little more information to give her before we just go back with the same questions. Because it sounds like you've gotten pretty far with questions and what we need to know. So I'll try that and see what we can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah.
And I talked with Diane Meyerhoff about, what we have some time left on
Yeah.
that Ready grant of using that pays for her time, and she's got about 15 hours.
Okay.
I said,
Yeah.
great. How about FEMA? And she said, no, the her time is paid for through, I think, the Housing and Conservation Trust Fund Board, does not count. It can't be applied to federal grant.
Okay.
She could probably work on the Clean Energy Development Fund grant.
Mhm.
But frankly, I think Jake and I are going to be better. It's not a very complicated application. And Jake and I can probably do that. The narrative portion of that is pretty small. So it is what it is.
Okay.
And that's all I've got to do.
Yep. So I've got the Better Places grant, and there's also a AARP Community Challenge, both of which would be totally appropriate for the pavilion, should we get there. However, you have to spend the money in the same year that you get the grant. So these are going to be, let's hold on those until it's nothing we could apply for until we knew when we were going to be building.
Did
So-
we explain the Better Places grant? Are you aware of that, Amy?
I feel like we have talked about that
Yeah,
one,
we
but
did. That's that community match one.
yes, we talked about that last
Yeah,
time.
yeah. And
Yeah, I
then
think-
AARP has one. I think Stephanie sent me this. Suzanne sent me this one. It's an AARP Community Challenge grant, and it's another one very much like that one, but it's the deadlines are March in March, but you have to expend the money by December of that same year, so we're not there. But it's something to keep in mind for the future. And it could definitely pay for that whole up to $50,000
Cool.
for grants. And their municipal grants, creating vibrant public places is the theme of the grant, so.
Pretty fun, actually.
Mhm.
Okay. So the only other thing I have on our agenda is to approve the minutes from
Yeah.
So how do they look?
Motion to accept the minutes from January 11th.
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
Oh, Josh will second, okay.
Either way.
Okay,
Josh,
any further discussion on that?
no,
All those in favor say aye.
Amy, I.
Lori, I.
Josh, aye.
And Jeff, aye.
Okay.
Okay, any other
Yep.
business to address?
I'm going to reach out to Martha and the Historical Society and Radiate, maybe with new dates, and say, could you run that? Could you tell your members again? Just repeat
Great.
that we're doing tours, and yeah.
Great. And I'll, we need to be in touch with Heidi. The deadline for, the times, when is our next meeting?
Well, we have a meeting / tour for committee members next Thursday.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's February 1st.
And then would that mean that our next regular meeting is the 8th?
The next regular meeting is the 8th, and I think that's the deadline for the
Well,
times.
So actually, the 8th wouldn't even be a regular meeting. Our next regular meeting would be the 1st, because that's Thursday before a select board meeting. But
Yeah,
we
so the
could meet
next-
on the 8th, because since we're sort of off schedule with the tours and all, if we want to meet the 8th, that might be fine. It would be fine.
Yeah. If Heidi knows something's coming, I think that deadline, her deadlines are a little flexible as long as she knows
Yeah,
what's
she
coming.
worked all weekend, this last weekend, on putting the paper together. So, I'll read you the minutes, your minutes, Lori, to figure out what, to remind me what we decided to do with that. But I think what we're doing with that is to try to give her maybe encourage her to put in the site plan. That would be really good. Makes for a really nice color.
That would have to be on the front page then, because that's the only page with color.
No, that's at the inside, the insert is, the inside page is color as well.
No, well, she told me she could not put color inside when I asked her.
It's on one side and not on the other. But anyways,
She could put it on the back or the front.
so we'll talk to her about that, and we'll put in another ad. So,
Okay, do you want me to work on an ad, or are you gonna do that?
if you could do that, that would be great.
Okay,
Maybe update the
just
date.
take the flyer and the pictures and the new dates, and
Yeah.
maybe cross out the old dates, and, or, do I'll strike through but leave the dates. I don't
Something
know.
like that. And I think one comment that I got back from Mary Hool, I think, was, if you put the money in the headline, it wakes
Yeah.
people, they pay more attention. So in some
Yeah.
fashion. And
I mean,
what
it's not like the money is a secret. That's what they're voting on.
Josh was suggesting, think about the top third above the fold, for if we give that to the school district as well. I think the
Yeah.
8th would be, we meet again on the 8th. I think that would be, then we can
Mhm.
think about, final outreach at
Mhm.
that time.
Well, I can plan to be at the February 2nd food affair, since that's before the 8th.
Mhm.
So I will commit to doing that one
Okay.
with somebody else or by myself.
And I can do that, or I can do the 16th if we need to have somebody at that one as well. Or
Mhm.
maybe we just say that two of us will go to the second and then see how. see
Yeah,
if
why don't
need
we do that?
Okay, so I'll go with you, Lori, to the second on the
Okay.
food affair.
And then
Do you
maybe I'll
still
take-
have the trifold, Amy?
I do actually. I brought it in here tonight, but I'll just bring it back with me and we'll
Yeah.
have it for.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, this is another busy meeting. Lots of decisions.
Okay.
Okay, is there anything else we need to talk about?
Nope.
Okay, then hearing none, I say we're adjourned, eh?
Thank
there's any-
you.
It's good.
Okay. Hey, thanks a
Okay.
lot.
All right. Bye.
Better, Josh.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Yeah, feel better.
Thanks.